Hey guys, real quick, I just want to say thank you again to everyone for all the support I've been given so far. It's been amazing and even a bit overwhelming. I hope to soon be able to put even more time and energy into this than I already do, and therefore be able to upload more often as well. As of right now, at the very least, I'll still be uploading at least once a week with new unheard material. If you guys like what I do on this channel, it helps me a ton if you subscribe and like the videos. It really does help. Also, for those of you that are interested and able and willing, I did start a Patreon. More than anything, I want you guys to listen to and enjoy my videos, and that's what's absolutely most important to me. But if you guys enjoy my content and you want to kind of nudge me in the direction of being able to do this more often, then feel free to go check that out. And if you see anything, or if you don't see anything on there that you think should be on there, offered as a reward, or have any suggestions for that, then feel free to let me know. Also, I've got links up to my social media sites. I think most of those are pretty much operational as of right now, at least functional. So if you can follow me on there, and if you guys ever want to get a hold of me, I try to respond to any type of message I'm sent on anything. So last but not least, this story tonight was sent to me by someone. They said that this is a transcript of the original posters, all of their posts for a thread they started. So someone started a thread. I don't know which website for sure, I could speculate, but someone started a thread, and this is all of their posts from it. If at the end of the video you guys want me to pry for more information and try to get more information about this story, I can contact the person that emailed it to me and try to get more for you. According to them, this is real, at least as real as far as they know it is. So yeah, like I said, if you guys want me to try to find more information out, I can. And without further ado, here's the video, and I hope you enjoy. So I know a lot of people are going to call me an idiot for making this post. A lot of other people are going to assume that I'm making this up for attention. I first want to say, I'm using a VPN and a few other security measures so that I stay anonymous. I'm writing this post because I have to make my boss disappear. He is an awful person, and he needs to die. I, on the other hand, need to protect my life and not end up in prison. I'm sure that there has to be a way I can do this without getting caught. Before anyone tells me that I'm a horrible person, I want to give you a little background on what made me come to this conclusion. I'm not a violent person. I haven't killed or severely harmed anyone in the past. My boss owns a rather large company. For the sake of my privacy, I'm not going to discuss what kind of business this is. I think that's kind of obvious. I know that killing someone is about the most extreme thing you can do. I assure you that there's no other way. He's already destroyed lives. My family and I will be next if I don't stop him. Let's refer to my boss as Sam. I'm going to change everyone's name for the sake of anonymity. Sam is already a killer himself. Several years ago, when he was at home in his gated community, Sam went on a walk. Sam knew he had made enemies while doing business and always carried a small revolver on him. He was walking down the street one night when he felt threatened by another man. To make a long story short, he shot and killed a black 15-year-old boy who also happened to live in the gated community because his parents were pretty wealthy. The kid was doing nothing wrong. He was simply walking home. Then and there, Sam should have been sent away to prison, but Sam seems to be above the law. The story leaked out and spread from person to person, but from my understanding, Sam realized he screwed up and the police helped him cover it up. Why? Because Sam has enough money to have the power to do that. Even good people will do the wrong thing when they're offered enough money. I know this firsthand. I've been working for Sam for several years. I had known him for a long time before working for him. One day, I decided to give him a copy of my resume. Several days later, I got a call. He asked me to meet with him, and the rest is history. I climbed the ladder very fast through his company. He really seemed to enjoy our company together. He would bounce ideas off me all the time. A lot of them were big ideas that could affect the company. It was pretty intense. I remember I began liking Sam. I felt so lucky to be able to work for him. All of that obviously changed over the next few years. Sam is one of those people that does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And I mean whatever. He killed a 15-year-old boy in cold blood. He didn't spend a single day in jail. Eventually, the charges were dropped and the case was settled outside of court. Sam literally paid his way out of a second-degree murder charge. But it doesn't stop there. What Sam has done, and continues to do, goes on and on. For a long period of time, I would turn a blind eye to what this man would do. It didn't take long for me to discover that Sam was a sociopath. He had an obvious need for a certain type of stimulation in his life. It's like his whole life revolves around him having power over others. With a business the size that Sam has grown to be, you would think that him being able to control that many people would satisfy his hunger. But it was far from enough. On the outside, Sam would come off as this extremely charming man. Sam's a pretty decent looking guy, even for being middle-aged. While in the eye of the public, he always had a smile on his face. The way he is able to interact with people is astonishing. He always knows the perfect thing to say. He is praised by many for all the charitable things he has done and the money he donates. If I were to tell you the name of my boss, and you lived in the state we are in, you would surely recognize who he is. You would probably think of him as a person he presents to the public, a charming, giving man. A man that hires people down on their luck and turns them into successes. But behind closed doors, Sam is far from any of these things. Like I said, I've been tolerating the things he does for years now. I am basically his right-hand man. I have access to him all the time, and we are often by ourselves behind closed doors. I am the guy that covers his tracks for him. I clean up his messes and make sure the vile things he does do not reach the public. Those he has tormented know better than to speak out against him. Someone has already tried it, and it didn't end well for her. This happened before I was hired. I wish I could give out specific details, but I can't. This is because this case reached the public, and I don't want anyone tying any of this together. But speaking generally, let's just say this certain girl had something bad done to her at one of Sam's offices. He has a big enough name to where it made the news, at least in my area. At first, the news was just reporting the allegations this girl was making. But after a couple weeks, based on what the news ended up reporting, this girl was made to look like a liar. The official story ended up being that the girl was fired for misconduct and made up a story to get Sam in trouble. All charges against Sam were dropped. And the girl was even given a misdemeanor for falsely reporting a crime and even spent a couple nights in jail. I felt bad for Sam at the time, although I didn't even know him yet. As a guy myself, I've always had this fear that some girl was going to end up trying to do the same thing to me. I would hate for a girl to falsely accuse me of something I didn't do, just because she was mad at me. After getting a job at Sam's company, I moved up the ranks and was a manager. One night, I was sitting around with a couple of the other managers. We were talking about work-related stuff, and also chatting a bit about other random things. We were all drinking a bit as well, and someone made a joke about the girl. It was at that point that I asked what happened. I knew at least a couple of the other managers had been around when the allegations came out. As soon as I asked about it, everyone got real quiet. A couple of the guys still had smirks on their faces, while the others were giving each other very serious looks. I could tell that they were looking at each other, sizing each other up, and trying to figure out if they were going to tell me the story. Finally, one of the managers broke the silence. His name was Christian. He had been working for Sam longer than any of us. He told me, "Look, Tyler, if anyone ever brings this up, you know nothing about it. A girl was mad at Sam and made the story up trying to make him look bad and get some of his money. That's all you know. The same story the news put out." "Of course, Christian. I would never say or do anything that would make Sam or the company look bad," I said. Christian continued, "This never leaves this room, but here's what really happened. That girl, Melinda, was a total skank. As soon as she started working here, she was flirting with any and every guy that would so much as give her a look. You could tell immediately that she was one of those girls that was willing to sleep with anyone if she thought it could earn her any type of promotion. She always dressed in a certain way that showed her off. The rumor was that Melinda never wore panties underneath her slutty skirts, so one night we decided to see if this was true. Since we always have little get-togethers in the evening, getting Melinda around wasn't an issue. We slipped a little something in her drink and let Sam take her for a test drive. She went along with it just fine. She wasn't saying no or anything. That girl was just trouble and wasn't worth our time. He stopped there and the guys began discussing the event amongst themselves. Now, keep in mind this wasn't a verbatim quote. It's from my memory, but I assure you it's quite accurate. I was absolutely appalled by the story, but made sure to wear a solid facade so I wouldn't be judged by the other managers. Things only got worse and worse at this point. To say the least, this company has been a very nerve-wracking place to work for. There's a lot of aggression from the management. Ever since making my way up the chain so quickly, many of the other managers resent me for skipping the line and moving ahead of them. I have to deal with a lot of passive aggression from these guys. The entire mentality of this company is completely messed up, too. Women are treated like play toys, instead of the respected coworkers that they really are. Day-to-day activity here is completely messed up and illegal, but people go along with it because it's how Sam likes it, and he pays everyone well. You'd be lucky to make half as much money working anywhere else with the same job title. So there's the people that like Sam and enjoy working for him. Then there's the other people who have no choice. People that have bills and children to pay for. They allow themselves to be subjected to a variety of things just to make ends meet. They know if they quit, they'll end up in huge financial trouble. Once you get accustomed to making this kind of money, you can't just go get a job somewhere that would cut your pay in half and expect to stay above water. I have overheard people talking about contacting the authorities based on the illegal things that happen within the walls of the company building, but past events show that that would be no help. People seeking help risk having everything turned around on them. Or at best, they will lose their jobs. I know all of this sounds bad, but you're probably asking yourself why I actually have to kill this guy. I'll explain. It really comes down to two recent events. I made a huge mistake a few years ago. Once I first started working for Sam, I was still under the impression he was a great guy. I even managed to get my girlfriend a job. I thought this was the best place to work for, and encouraged her to apply. Of course, I also vouched for her. Her name is Emily. She was hired by Sam to be some type of a combination of a receptionist and a personal assistant. Since Sam doesn't get a ton of calls to his personal office, she isn't glued to her desk. That leaves her available to do various tasks for him throughout the day. Over the last few years, things have regressed. He treats her like she's barely human. He makes her do anything at all he can think of. Half the time she's running personal favors for him. She basically has to make sure his life doesn't fall apart. Emily and I have a 4-year-old daughter. We are currently paying for just about everything we could be stuck paying for. A mortgage for our home, 2 car payments, tons of utility bills, groceries, cell phones and internet, the list goes on and on. Between the two of us, we make pretty good money. But if either of us, or especially both of us, lost our jobs, we would lose everything else along with it. We put up with this because of our daughter. We know that if one of us gets fired by Sam, we would both end up losing our jobs. Sam even occasionally reminds us of this by saying we are a package deal. On top of all of Sam's normal day-to-day piece of crap actions, he has some strong sexual fetishes. Not only does he want to sleep with all of the girls he hires, he also forces others to do sorts of things so he can watch. I've heard about this for years, but Emily and I have always managed to avoid it. I assumed Sam had respect for us, and since we were a couple that worked for the company, he never approached us. There's a very young girl that Sam hired about 8 or 9 months ago named Olivia. She and I would run into each other a lot because she worked in human resources, and that department is on the same floor that I work on. For the same reason, Sam would often delegate me to help Olivia out with various tasks she wasn't equipped to do on her own. I got to know Olivia quite well over the months, and almost felt like she was a little sister to me. I became protective over her. I never directly asked Sam if he tried to make her do things, but I would occasionally say certain things that would give her the opportunity to bring it up to me if it was happening. It appeared to me that Sam wasn't messing around with her or harassing her. I figured it probably had to do with her age. So guys, here's the straw that broke the camel's back. Here's what pushed me into a corner and is forcing my hand. On top of Sam being a murderer and a rapist, he did 2 other things which have led me to where I'm at now. About 2 weeks ago, Emily had to work late. I picked our daughter up from daycare and went home with her to make us some dinner. I tried waiting up for Emily, but eventually had to go to sleep. It wasn't too weird that she worked late into the night, as I already knew Sam would make her do any and everything he needed to keep either his professional or personal life in good shape. She woke me up a bit after midnight that night. She was crying. I sat up and asked her what was wrong. She just kept apologizing to me. I'd never seen her this upset in my entire life. It took her several minutes to calm down and explain to me what happened. She was working in Sam's office that night. She had to file a bunch of reports that had been typed up previously. After everyone else left the office that night, Sam shut and locked the door to his office. He made Emily uncomfortable and began telling her that he always had his eyes on her ever since she first started working there. She tried laughing off everything he said, but he was persistent. He demanded oral sex from her. She refused. From there on, they went back and forth. She kept refusing him. Eventually, he became aggressive towards her. He started to threaten her. He gave her two choices: either do what he said, or he was firing both of us and would have both of us thrown in jail. He showed her some of the reports I had typed up. It made it look like I was cooking the books and trying to embezzle. And with Emily being the one to file the report, it looks like we have this scheme set up. This guy seriously tricks his employees into doing things that appear illegal so he can hold it against them as leverage. Emily said she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what was true and what was not. But she did know, regardless of the paperwork Sam had, he had enough money and power to have anyone thrown in jail for any reason. She also knew that if we both lost our jobs, we would be in a world of trouble. So out of fear, she went along with what he wanted. She freaking did it. I was incredibly angry. Even though I knew it wasn't Emily's fault, I couldn't help but being angry at her. I haven't been taking it out on her, though. I've been as supportive as I can be. But Sam, on the other hand, well, I was ready to kill him at this point already. After she first told me this, I went to the office, but he had gone home. I tried calling him, but his phone was off. I drove around all night that night, just thinking about everything. Once the morning came and it was time for work, I went in and headed straight to Sam's office. Sam smiled at me and greeted me by saying good morning. Every part of me wanted to explode on him right then and there and beat him into nothing, but I knew I would end up in jail. The last thing I want is to lose my family. I did the best to hold myself together and began questioning Sam, asking him what the hell he thought he was doing. He only responded by telling me that Emily wanted it, and that she initiated it. I knew that was a lie, and it enraged me even further. You guys really have no idea how bad this guy is, but it gets even worse. Somehow it gets even worse. Sam and I went back and forth. The entire time I was on the verge at throwing a punch at him. He ended up truly exposing to me just how much dirt he had created for me. Emily mentioned it to me, but once I actually saw it from my own eyes, I was dumbfounded. Without going into too much specific detail that would possibly give up the type of company I work for, let's just say he has papers that are similar to a type of invoice we use. They are invoices that show money being moved around within the company, as opposed to a type of receipt for an outside sale or purchase from a vendor. Over the last year or so, he has occasionally had me file certain types of these invoices that make it look like I was stealing money from the company. I certainly have never stolen, and never would. The money I make here has never been an issue, but he has enough paperwork he sneakily had me create that could put me in jail for a long time. I never considered that certain things he had me do could make me look bad and be held against me. Not only did I have to shut up and accept what he forced Emily to do, but he had another demand. Something awful that his sick and twisted fetish desired. Once I realized exactly what he meant, I almost felt sick. He was going to request that Olivia stay over later than normal on a certain night. He wanted to tell her that there was an individual coming in for an interview, and that this person was very valuable to him, but could only interview later in the evening. From there, once Olivia, Sam, and I were the only 3 people left in the building, he wanted to watch, as I suddenly forced myself on the poor girl. He expressed that he wanted it to be brutal. He didn't want her to expect it, and he wanted to watch all of it. I was left absolutely speechless. He continued giving me details, and I finally found some words I was looking for. I told him that I absolutely wouldn't, that I couldn't do this. I told him I could never do that to anyone, and especially not Olivia. She was too young. She was like a sister to me. She seemed like the type of girl that had never even been out on a date with a guy. I continued listing reasons to Sam on why I would never do that to her. He began smiling and told me that if I didn't go through with it, everyone would discover just how young I like them. Not only does Sam have a pretty far reach into the police department, but he has people within his own company even more dedicated to him. Lance, One of the guys that work in the IT department was apparently able to fabricate things into my browsing history online. He could plant things on my hard drive and then contact the police, saying that he was doing some routine maintenance and stumbled upon everything. He was telling me I have to do what he wants, or I was going to be busted for kiddie porn. He went on to tell me just how badly that would affect my life. My job would be gone, my family would be gone, I would be sent to prison for years, and upon my release, it would be doubtful that I could ever see my family again. Emily would know I was set up, but she would probably also always have the doubt in the back of her mind of whether or not this was true, and Sam used it as leverage. Anyway, it wouldn't matter. My life would be ruined. I would probably be murdered in prison. So now, I either attack an innocent girl that I adore as a sister and ruin her life forever, or Sam will essentially end mine. I told Sam that I would do it. I made up a lie and told him that I have trouble down there, and without my medication, I can't, perform. Apparently I was convincing enough because he actually seemed to buy it. I said I was out of my medication and that I needed to go see my doctor for more. I went as far as to tell him to make sure that he had everything planned out and that I would keep him posted on my end. I've bought myself a few days, and this is where I'm at now. I can't go to the police. He has too many friends there, and one way or another, I would go down for something. I could tell Olivia about it and convince her to quit, but he would probably just find out what I did. Even if he didn't, he would just find someone else for me to do this to. I did tell Emily about this, of course, and we have been discussing ideas. I haven't told her that I've come to the conclusion that he needs to die. For one, I don't want her to have any part in this, or to be considered complicit for murder. Also, I am certain that she would be against it, even given the horrible consequences of not doing it. I truly feel that I am now stuck in an awful situation. I already understand that most of the people on this site that read this are going to think that I'm full of crap, and that's okay. I would probably think the same thing if I read this. But the people that do believe me, I need advice. I know many are going to tell me not to take him out, and I'm totally open to ideas on how I can fix this without doing that. I don't want to take someone's life, not even a little bit, but I feel like I'm being forced into doing it. I need to know how I should go through with it. Keep in mind, I have access to this guy all the time. We are often together in the same room by ourselves. I am sure he has made plenty of enemies despite how highly the public thinks of him. I just wish more people knew the real him and knew how many people actually hate him in real life. His death would be a very big deal to this area. The level of power and prestige he has reached is the cause of this. I know his death would be investigated to the fullest. I'm taking a big risk even posting this. There's a chance that someone that works in the company could stumble upon this, and if they are one of Sam's loyal people, they will probably be able to read this and put the pieces together and figure out what I'm talking about. If Sam were to read this, even with everyone's name changed, it would be extremely obvious who wrote it, and then I will be the one who disappears. I have absolutely no clue what to do. It has to be absolutely perfect, because this won't be a case that isn't looked into. This man is a monster and has to be stopped. I only have a few days. I'm not sure how I can buy myself more time. So that's my story. I've considered my options, and when it comes down to it, there's nothing else I can do. I'll check back on this post as often as possible and update it with any ideas I come up with or if I make any decisions. Any and all help and advice is greatly appreciated. Update. I read through all of the replies. I didn't think I would get so much feedback. Like expected, the majority of people think this is a joke. That's fine, it's what I expected anyway. But for those of you that know I'm serious, I'll try to respond to everything. I'm not sure if I left info out at the beginning of the post, or if some of you did not read it all, but I can't go to the police. For one, Sam has too many friends working in the government and the police. Even if I was able to stop him from doing what he threats, I would at least be out of a job and then eventually killed. Even if I wasn't killed, Emily and I would both be out of work and would lose everything. To those of you that asked, I do have a plan for what I would do after Sam is gone. First of all, Sam's sons are involved in his business, so I'm sure one of them would take over running it. It's a huge business and it's not going to just disappear or close down because the CEO passes away. And I'm sure that Sam has a will anyway. I'm sure there is a specific plan for what would happen if he were to pass away suddenly. I cannot imagine someone with such a large business and so much money would not have a will. I've been thinking about this a lot and have taken everyone's replies into consideration. I think one of the most important replies was the guy who said that it's nearly impossible to get away with murder these days because of forensics. I realize this, and like I said, a guy that has as much money as Sam won't be murdered without a full investigation. And even if I wouldn't necessarily be looked at as someone with motive, I spend so much time around him that I would certainly be looked into, at least as a person of interest. Keeping this in mind, I think I need to come up with a way to do this that would make it look like one of three things: an accident, a suicide, or natural causes. I'm not going to give out Sam's age, of course, but he's within an age range that would make it not implausible for him to have a heart attack or something similar. Also, like someone mentioned, I do understand that it would make things way easier if I had someone else in on this with me, but it's not possible. The only person I would even be able to trust is Emily, and there's no way I can mention this to her. Most importantly, I cannot turn her into an accomplice. She doesn't deserve that, and someone needs to be with our daughter if anything happens to me. Plus, she would never agree to this anyway. She would try to stop me. She hates Sam as much as anyone, but she would never go along with a murder plan. So that's where I'm at. I have a few days to get this done, by myself, and I need to make it look like an accident or some type of natural cause. A suicide is another option, but I feel like it would be hard to set that up perfectly. And I know a lot of people, including his family, would contest it and demand a thorough investigation be done anyway. I just need any idea of something I can do that would be effective, but won't ruin my or my family's lives. Anyway, thanks for the replies so far. I'll check back in again soon. Update. I appreciate so many people commenting. I've read through everything. As far as staging any type of accident, I'm basically limited to making something like that happen within an office setting, so there's not much to work with. And for the person that said I should cut his brakes, I feel like that's just something that might work in a movie. I just mean he would probably only bump into another car in the parking lot, honestly. Someone else mentioned that I should use ricin. That's the kind of idea I'm leaning towards, but ricin itself wouldn't be very realistic. I'm sure I could order some castor beans, but I wouldn't be able to extract the ricin from them. I looked into the chemistry behind it and it's too long and complicated of a process for me. So I don't really know what I'm going to do yet, but I have been focusing a bit of time on a few other things. I want to make sure I'm prepared for the worst case scenario, Sam's death being treated as a homicide. If this happens, which hopefully it won't, I want to make sure I don't draw attention to myself as a suspect. Aside from Emily, no one knows of any type of motive I have, so I should be good there. Depending on how I do this, I want to also make sure I have some type of alibi if needed. And I'm also going to try to find some Xanax. I just want to have some available in case I end up getting questioned. I could offer to take a polygraph test to quickly clear my name. While researching, I discovered that taking this medication prior to a polygraph test will keep you from displaying stress while lying, therefore allowing you to pass the test. While I continue to come up with a plan, I want to hope for the best but also make sure I'm prepared for the worst. I have to sign off now, but we'll update again soon. Update. At this point, it seems like all of the skeptics have gotten bored with this thread, and it's now left with only people who know that I'm for real and want to help. I really want to thank those who believe me and want to help me. And I want to reassure everyone that this situation is a nightmare, and I wish there was any other way. So while I was spending time looking into my resources, I believe I've come up with a plan. Sam used to have a drug problem. It was years before I worked for him. He had gotten an injury that required surgery. After being prescribed pain meds for so long, he couldn't stop taking them, even after he no longer needed them for the pain. Apparently this went on for several years, and things got really bad, but eventually he got clean. Although he's been off them for around 8 to 10 years, it still wouldn't be unbelievable for him to have relapsed. I want to stage an overdose death for him. Obviously I can't force him to take them himself, or choke him out and then make him take them, but I do believe I have a plan that would work. Sam still likes to drink quite a bit, so basically, I just need he and I to work late together, just the two of us, and I am almost positive I can pull it off. I have to get a couple things prepared if I make this work, so I'm going to get going. If you guys haven't heard back from me, I'm either in prison or dead. Update. The only reason I am writing this right now is because I need to pass the time. I am currently playing the waiting game to see what my fate is going to be, and this will help distract me for a moment. Let me explain. Earlier today, I met up with someone to buy Xanax from them. It took a long time because I had to travel downtown to make sure I could find it from a stranger, as I didn't want the purchase being traced back to me. Luckily, I wasn't robbed or arrested in the process. I had intended on purchasing it anyway, but ended up buying quite a bit extra. After doing some research, I crushed up a few of them and put them in a small baggie and set it aside. I got a hold of Sam. I asked him if he was able to meet up soon so we could discuss his proposal. He told me to meet him at his office when I finished my work this evening. I made sure to wait until it appeared everyone else had left for the day, occasionally touching base with Sam so he didn't leave, and made my way up to his office. We began talking. He immediately started hinting threats towards me, saying he genuinely liked me and hoped I wasn't going to back out because he didn't want to have to hurt me. Still acting like I had nothing else planned, I made him reassure me that Emily wouldn't find out about anything. He had a sickening smile on his face by this point. I began acting nervous, which I was, and asked him if I could get us a drink. Without actually answering my question, he stood up and walked over to the minibar as he started to talk about something else. Crap. I knew I needed his drink alone for a moment. 3 drinks later, we were still talking, and I was beginning to get a bit tipsy. I didn't drink much, and was desperately hoping I wouldn't end up too drunk to pull this off. Just then, Sam's cell phone rang. He told me he had to take the call and stepped out of the room, finally giving me the moment I needed to spike his drink. I began running the rest of the plan through my head while I waited for him to re-enter the room. The Xanax and alcohol should have a powerful, rather quick reaction. While I made the drug deal earlier, I also purchased OxyContin and found some syringes. Once Sam was unconscious, I was going to inject him with a dose of OxyContin that would definitely be deadly, especially when mixed with Xanax and alcohol. I made sure to have gloves on me so I could put Sam's prints on the syringe without getting mine on them. I was also going to poke his arm with a few of the other syringes and hide them in a few spots throughout his office. That way, it will look obvious that he had started using again. The world will think it was an accidental overdose. My life was about to get so much easier. Sam walked back in the room saying, "Where were we?" We began talking again. Minutes went by and he hadn't began drinking again. I started to panic. Was he done drinking? Did he see me put something in his drink? Did he leave the room just as a test? Is there someone on their way here to kill me? Finally, my mind was put to ease when he picked up his glass and took a sip. I anxiously awaited his reaction, as I wasn't sure if the taste of the crushed pills would stand out against the already bitter drink. Luckily, there was no reaction. I quickly finished my drink. I stood up and offered to refresh our drinks. I wanted him to hurry up and consume the last gulp of his drink. I didn't want him to begin feeling the effects of the medication before he had all of it in his system. I again found myself in luck, as he polished off his glass and then handed it to me. I brought us back 2 full glasses. Things were finally beginning to fall perfectly into place. About halfway through his next glass, Sam began slurring his words very violently. The medication began to take hold quickly and dramatically. Finally, Sam cut me off mid-sentence and asked to be excused. He began to turn out of his chair and stand up. He made it about halfway up and fell to the floor. I called out his name a couple times and gently shook him. Before I continued to the next step, I wanted to ensure that he was really out. Satisfied with his response, or lack thereof, I started emptying my pockets of the rest of the tools of the job. Just then, I kid you not, I heard the front door to the office building slam shut down the hall. Luckily, we didn't have music on in the background, or I may not have heard it. If whoever it was headed to this office, I at least had a tiny bit of time to hide what I was doing. Only about 20 seconds though. Still, it would be better than getting walked in on while I was injecting something into Sam at least. I began shoving everything into my pockets as I heard footsteps grow closer and closer as they headed down the hall. I rushed as quickly as I could and prayed that whoever it was didn't plan on coming into this room. Once I had the last of the things in my pockets, I kneeled down next to Sam. Just then, the door opened. It was one of Sam's sons. I looked at him with horror, and he shot me a similar expression. I yelled for him to call 911. He did just that, asking me what happened while he dialed the number. I told him we were having a couple drinks when he went to stand up and fell down, which was most of the truth at least. 911 asked where we were, what we were doing, if Sam had tripped or just collapsed, etc., and stayed on the line until paramedics arrived. The paramedics essentially asked us the same exact questions and then transported Sam to the emergency room. His son and I met them there. Many other people showed up since we got here, about an hour and a half ago or so. If they test Sam for drugs, they're going to ask him about the Xanax, and he's going to know what happened. Even if they don't test him, he's a smart guy. He's going to put it together. He will remember us drinking, followed by him feeling weird, then waking up in the hospital. And all of that happening just minutes after leaving his drink unattended with me while he took a phone call. I began thinking about Emily and our daughter. I felt so guilty that I wasn't able to pull this off. I can't believe how close I got to getting this done, and now here I sit. I'm one of many family, friends, or co-workers that has gathered at the hospital by this point, waiting to see how Sam will do. Unfortunately, I'm sure he's going to be just fine. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this will be my final update. I really do want to thank those who believed me, and those who understood how horrible of a person this guy is and really wanted to help me. Take care, everyone. Update. So as I mentioned in my last update, I didn't expect to be writing this. It's only been about 12 hours since my last update, but I've learned enough about my situation to justify writing again. Several hours after we arrived at the hospital, Sam finally woke up. His sons were with him at the time. Not long after, he asked to speak with me. I considered my options once his son told me this. Should I run? Should I shoot myself up with the OxyContin and just take myself out? I would never do that last one, but I wouldn't be lying if I didn't say I at least thought about it. I felt incredibly nervous but walked into Sam's room. He asked his son to let us have a minute to talk. I sat down and waited to hear my fate. Sam told me that the doctors determined that he had lost consciousness due to low blood pressure and alcohol consumption. They said when he went to stand up, it caused his blood pressure to suddenly drop even lower than it already was. Sam went on to tell me that his son told him that he saw me trying to revive him when he walked in. He went on to actually thank me for helping him, so that's why he wanted me to come in his room, so he could thank me. Somehow he didn't realize what really happened, and he just freely believed what the doctors told him. I'm lucky they didn't run a tox screen on him. So it looks like I'm back to where I started, but at least I'm still alive. So things could definitely be worse. This is all I can write for now. I'll write more soon. Update. So Sam wasn't in the hospital very long at all. He actually went back to work the next day. Like a couple of you said, he was probably blacked out before the medication even fully kicked in. So that kind of saved me. It didn't take him long to bring up the conversation we were having the night he ended up in the hospital. He had just casually told me we needed to finish our conversation while we were getting some work done together. So obviously he still has the same intentions for me. I don't know why, but part of me was hoping that after all this happened the way it did, that he would no longer be forcing me to go through with what he wanted. So I'm officially back at square one. At least he is still unsuspecting of me, so I still do have a chance. Sorry for another short update, but I'm scrambling to figure all this out. I'll update again when possible. Update. Nothing too exciting has happened since my last update. Things went along as usual the last couple days. I'm supposed to meet up with Sam tonight after work because he said he wants to finish our conversation and come up with a plan. So he's still pretty adamant about all of this going down. Like some of you suggested, I'm going to stick with the original plan and just try it again tonight. Since I wasn't caught last time, it shouldn't be a problem doing it tonight. I'm going to lock the doors to the building before I head up to Sam's office. I'm still as nervous as ever, but I think I have everything covered. This was just a quick update to let you guys know what was happening and when I was doing it. I'll write again once I'm finished with everything. Update. So I went through with it. I took a slightly different approach. Before meeting Sam, I went to this liquor store that has a section of rare types of alcohol. I got us a bottle of rare rum and brought it with me. After Sam made us drinks, I told him I forgot that I had gotten us a special kind of rum and went to pour us shots. I had everything prepared so I was able to sneak the pills into Sam's shot rather easy. I wanted him to take the dose of medication all at once, so I figured him doing a shot would be the best bet. At first he was hesitant to do the shot, but I talked him into it. About 10 minutes went by and we continued to talk. He got a concerned look on his face and told me he thought he was having another low blood pressure episode. He got his phone out to call 911. I grabbed it from him and I told him I would call for him, and that he just needed to relax and sit still. I pretended to call 911. I was going through the motions of what I thought I would really be saying if I had actually called. I told Sam to just continue to relax and that they were on their way. A couple more minutes passed and Sam finally passed out. I locked the door to his office as a precaution and got to work. I had done quite a bit of research, so I knew how I was supposed to prepare the drugs. It was pretty easy. I just crushed the pills, put them in a spoon, measured out water with a syringe and mixed it all together. Once it looked mixed up, I put a small piece of cotton in the spoon and drew it all into the syringe. Obviously I had gloves on and made sure to get Sam's fingerprints on the syringe instead. I dragged Sam into the bathroom in his office. I rolled the sleeve up on his left arm since he is right-handed and found a vein. Luckily he has some pretty large veins on his arm, so it wasn't too difficult. I put the needle in and drew back blood to make sure I had it in the right spot. I pushed in the plunger and nothing seemed to happen. I wasn't sure if there was going to be some type of crazy reaction or what, but I just hoped I'd done it right. If I was sold some type of fake drugs, I was really going to be in trouble. I put the syringe down next to Sam and made sure all the other evidence was in the proper place. I went back to check on Sam. At this point, he really wasn't breathing. I was able to find a pulse, but it felt very weak. I wanted to make sure he was completely dead before I called 911. If I called too soon, they might be able to revive him, and that would not be good for me. It didn't take too much longer after that. Eventually, Sam stopped breathing all the way. A few minutes after that, I couldn't find any type of pulse anymore. I waited another 5 minutes after his heart stopped and locked the door to the bathroom and shut it. I busted it open by ramming my shoulder into it and called 911. I told them I found my boss in the bathroom, lying on the floor and unresponsive. I said that I thought it was an overdose because of the things I saw near him in the bathroom. The person on the phone said that an ambulance was on the way and gave me instructions on how to perform CPR. I told them I would start doing it, but obviously didn't. I made sure the doors were unlocked, and several minutes later the paramedics arrived. They asked me some questions and began working on Sam. They put an IV in him and began doing CPR themselves. Shortly after, they began transporting him to the hospital. I told them I would meet them there and contact Sam's family on my way. I began driving there and called Sam's son on my way and told him what happened. He kept asking me questions, and I told him I wasn't able to answer them because I wasn't sure. I just said we were at the office talking, that Sam excused himself to use the restroom, and after enough time passed, I began feeling weird and went to check on him. I said I couldn't get a response and forced the door open and found Sam laying on the ground and called 911. I told him aside from that, I didn't know much else. I got to the hospital, and just like last time, a bunch of other people showed up after a bit, except this time, we didn't have to wait very long in the waiting room. As I expected, Sam didn't pull through. I did my absolute best to act as shocked and upset as everyone else. I'm not really sure how this is going to affect my workplace, or what's going to happen next, but I'm just going to continue on like I didn't do anything wrong. I feel bad that Sam's death had to hurt people that cared about him, but he gave me no other choice. He, on the other hand, did have a choice. He didn't have to put me in such an awful position, either make me attack an innocent girl, or frame me into looking like a child predator. But now I'm out of that position, and I feel extremely relieved. Anyway, I've had a long night, so I'm going to go. I'll do another update, which will probably be my last one. I wanted to say again that I appreciate everyone that offered me opinions and helped me make this possible. Update. So it's been a few days since Sam died. We ended up having a big meeting at work. We talked about a few different things, but it was mainly to announce that Sam's oldest son, Anthony, would be taking over as the acting CEO of the company. I'm feeling even more relieved about everything too. The coroner ruled Sam's death as an accidental overdose. At one point I did answer some really basic questions for the police, but they aren't doing any type of investigating. For the sake of the company's image and Sam's reputation, the company only released very vague details surrounding Sam's death. So, it's over. Emily is obviously thrilled. Just like everyone else, she was in disbelief over this happening. She couldn't believe our luck, but she was just relieved we didn't have to worry about any of this anymore. So yeah, thanks for the help. Since there won't be anything left to update with you guys, I guess there won't be any more updates. I'll wait a few days before I delete this thread to give everyone that was following it a chance to read the end of it. Update. So I know I said yesterday that I wasn't going to post another update, but unfortunately I was given a reason to. I'm absolutely terrified and panicked right now. Everything seemed to be going fine. There was no investigation going on and no one was acting weird towards me. Then this morning I was eating breakfast before work and checked my email. I had an email from my new boss, Anthony, Sam's son. There was an attachment with the email. I opened it up and started downloading it. Most attachments I get from people I work with are extremely small and download almost immediately. This one was much larger. Once the attachment finished downloading it, I opened it. It turned out to be a video file. As soon as I watched it, I felt like I was going to pass out. It was a video from the camera that is in the hallway that leads to Sam's office. It pointed in the direction of Sam's door. The door was shut, but the video showed through the small window next to the door me dragging Sam across the floor. All that was written in the email was, "Don't mention this to anyone. Come to my office when you get to work. We need to talk." So I'm officially panicking at this point. I haven't gone into work yet and really don't want to. I'm trying to think of any excuse I could give that would explain the video, but there just isn't any. Maybe if it showed me dragging him away from the bathroom, I could say I pulled him out of there to do CPR with more room. But it clearly shows me dragging him in the direction of the bathroom. I was thinking about going on the run, but I think I'd rather die than be away from my family. I don't think he's going to the police. It wouldn't make any sense to send me the video clip if he was. I don't know if he's going to blackmail me or something, but I just guess I need to go find out. I'm just horribly nervous. I don't have much time, but if anyone else is awake and has any advice on what he might want and why he would be doing this, please let me know, because I'm at a loss. I really hope that I'm able to write another update. I mean, I don't think he's going to kill me, at least not at the office. That would be a risky place for him to do it. I feel like he also wouldn't give me a heads up, letting me know that he knew what I did if he was going to try to do something to me. I'm just not able to make any sense of this. I'll write more later, hopefully. Update. So obviously I'm still alive. I went and met up with Anthony earlier like he asked. It turned out, he wasn't as upset with me as I feared. He told me that his dad was actually planning on taking him out of the will and was going to leave the company to his other son instead. He also mentioned a bunch of awful things that his dad had done in the past. Some I was aware of, some I was not. The bottom line was that he wanted his dad gone almost as much as I did. I ended up telling him why I did what I did, and he wasn't surprised. He knew how awful his dad was. He said he wasn't sure how I pulled it off the way I did, but that he considers it a favor to him. He told me he just wanted to bring me to his office so he could personally thank me, and that was it. As you can imagine, I'm extremely relieved. It went a lot better than I expected. At first I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to write this update. But there's something that's bothering me. Anthony could have just pulled me aside at work today whenever he wanted to tell me this. Why did he have to email me? Even more importantly, why would he go through the trouble of sending me the video clip? He could have just told me he looked up the security footage and watched it. Something about him sending it to me just seems so menacing. I just worry that he's going to use this footage against me sometime in the future. I can't have him change his mind one day and decide to turn this into the police, or use it to make me do things I don't want to do. I don't want to live in fear. One of the reasons I killed Sam was because I didn't want to have to be worried all the time. I'm going to delete this thread soon. It served its purpose, and I really do appreciate the help I've received. I've learned a lot from this experience and the people on this site. I feel like I now know everything I need to know, which is good, because now I have to kill Anthony. Wish me luck, everyone.